Hey guys, Joe with BitRaged. So what we talked about in the last video with Bitcoin played out, we got the rejection there at the triple top and it moved down. Then we moved straight into a correction, got another smaller move up, and we're kind of just sitting in this corrective period now. You have to be very patient with this. The pattern is still in play and it's still developing. Bitcoin is still developing the structure to trade. So be very patient with it. Don't just jump in simply because you see it going up or down. Actually understand what it is doing and be patient. The structure has changed just slightly the way I'm looking at it, and that's simply because of how it's forming. I'm going to go into that in a minute. So we had a weekly close here. We had this weekly close, and we're just starting another week here. That is a very low momentum sign. It's conducive with the pattern. Looking here on the daily chart, you can see we're starting to get more of that ascending nature, right? That is starting to give us the indication that this may be the move down. This is going to be the continuation to then sell, just based on how it's moving. We haven't gotten clear confirmation either way, but the pattern is giving us a very clear corrective ascending nature. And typically when you have corrective ascending nature, you look for that to sell. Very similar to this, right? So had to move up. That was pretty high momentum. Some indecision here, some volatility, and then it came down. Just had an ascending channel. We're looking at a very similar scenario here. Something more like this, right? Ascending channel, sells. Ascending channel, sells. More of a bear flag. Ascending channel, sells. More of a bear flag. So that is what we're looking at here on the daily. You can see there are some impulsive moves within this pattern, but most of it is very, very corrective. So let's jump down to the 4-hour chart. All right, so here you can start to see more of the pattern that I'm looking at right now that Bitcoin has been respecting. You can see here on the top, you got 1, 2, and 3 there on the top of that pattern, and then we're just starting to get this reaction here. The reason why I'm looking at this pattern, you can see here, these two candles here started to reject and started to form this pattern right here. That gave me the indication, okay, this is now in play. This is what the market is responding to. And if that is what the market is responding to, then we're looking at this as well, right? It makes sense. Now, I'm still aware that this is an area where we have seen rejection in the past. And so you have to keep that in mind. If we did make a move to the upside, that is an area where we've seen rejection in the past, and it is something we should look at if price interacts with it. But I have taken that off just to make it a little bit clearer. Let's jump down to the 1 hour. You can start to see what I mean here. So this is where we started to see that reaction. You see this here? So if I just move this out of the way and I move this forward, right? You can see it didn't reach that pattern. It didn't reach the trend line. That gave me the indication, okay, this pattern is still in play, right? But we have that in play as well. The reason being, it lines up just perfectly. We're starting to see that reaction there. So what could we look at for this? Because we did get a reaction here, we got two clear reactions. We can look at this for the potential to just get an ascending here, right on the trend line. That would be very, very nice to take that to the downside. If we get that, I'm going to be looking for this to sell. We know that we have this ascending channel. Seeing that sell would not be unlikely. Within that, even this pattern here is more of an ascending, but it does come from more of an impulsive move up, right? So looking at this, just based on how price has reacted here over the weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if, this is looking like a descending channel. If we get this break to the upside and then reject here at the pattern, that is possible. Or we go all the way up to here and get a reaction at the larger pattern. Keeping in mind that this triple top area, this quadruple top, whatever you want to call it, is still there. So we have to be aware of that. The reason I'm looking at this as I am, you could say, well, why don't you draw the pattern from here? We had that in, and that is still valid. The reason why I'm looking at this as the pattern right now is simply because of the reaction right here. So if you look at it, we had more of this ascending channel broke to the downside. We had this reaction here. With that, this is the start of the pattern. This is the beginning of the pattern, the corrective period. That is how we know, okay, this may be the pattern the market is responding to. Then we got these reactions here. We can see, okay, this is the pattern the market is responding to at this point. So this is what we're looking at. Having a trend line in here, you know, it is still valid, and we were looking at that. It's definitely still valid. The reason why I have it removed is simply to make it clear so you can see exactly what I'm looking at. But if we just zoom out here, and we just look at the pattern, look at how price is moving. This is looking more like the move down. This is more of an ascending channel to then sell. It's very, very similar to what we had here. Ascending channel, and then it sold. Very, very similar to that. Also this as well, right? Ascending channel, sold. So we do get these quite a bit. That would just form into a continuation pattern to continue this move at least to here, and that is what I'd be watching for as a target. When I say here, I'm looking at 5,200 to 5,400 depending on when we do get there. Right about 5,300 is about the average there. It depends on when we do get there. But as far as targets, let's say this does play out and we do get a move to the upside, because as I said, this is more corrective in a descending channel. It would not be unlikely to see this break to the upside and go to here. That's about 6,600, or even go all the way up to here. Maybe even break the high and then retrace. That's about 6,800. So that is still on the cards. That is a potential. But I am interested in this pattern here, simply because of how it has developed. So with this, we either get the buy out of this pattern, or the market just cracks here on the trend line. That would give us the sell setup. So the market is still very much in this corrective period. It's still very much developing the pattern. This is where a lot of people will get bored. They don't really understand what the market is doing, what it's giving you, and then they just put it off and they miss the bigger move. At this point, we can start to see what the market is giving us, and it's becoming more and more likely to see this just sell. To get a buy out of this pattern, I did want to cover this. Because of how it's forming, it's very, very unlikely at this point to just get a buy, create continuation, and then move up. Very, very unlikely for that to happen. Why is that the case? Well, I want to show you this. We had this ascending channel, right? That broke to the downside, and then we had this move up. So we broke out of this ascending channel and then got more of a descending channel, right? So moved up, corrective, broke out, started corrective movement in a descending channel, got more of a flag pattern here, moved up. That is where it broke. So if we look at that, apply the same logic to see a move up, we'd see this break to the downside anyway, then give us just a descending channel to then move back to the upside. And it doesn't have to be that big. If we move all the way to here, then create a descending channel within it, I'd still be looking for that as a buy. But the market's going to give us that indication. That is going to confirm that move. But as of right now, it's looking like that's a very clear move to the downside. This is just forming a corrective ascending channel, which, as we've seen in the past here, that's not sustainable. We're going to see that come back to the downside. To get a buy out of this, we're going to see the market give us that indication, but we don't have that as of just yet. So it's getting very interesting. The pattern is still very much developing. These are the periods where you start to really gain a lot of clarity about how the market does move, how these patterns develop, just what it can give us. And these are the times where you'll learn the most. Don't get put off simply because we've been in this correction in this pattern for a week, 2 weeks. Don't get put off by that. Use it as a time to really hone your skills and learn how these patterns do develop. And if you're interested in learning how to trade, click the link in the description. We have a whole course on that where we go into this strategy, how we do trade in detail so that you're always able to capitalize on the market, always able to understand what the market is doing. You're never caught off guard. So I hope this helps you out. Hopefully this was very detailed for you. We appreciate you watching. Take care now.